Check this out. One of these steps changed how I facilitate projects, and I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. If you're new to the channel, I go by the name of ED. For all you smart and intelligent folks out there, listen, that just simply means Ed. I have an 8-point framework where you go through 8 points, and then after that, you know my slogan, I'm out. Today's episode is entitled Mastering Projects, Facilitators, Errors, You Must Dodge. Again, Mastering Projects, Facilitators, Errors, You Must Dodge. Is it okay if I tell you a story? See, what makes me qualified to tell you this story, as I always say, family, is because I've experienced it. I love the line that what Jay-Z said, I went through that, so hopefully you won't have to go through that. Translation meaning that I've been here, I've done that. I've also got the t-shirt and I got the trophy to prove that I was here. The trophy doesn't mean that we won or we're celebrating. The trophy may just basically mean in a sense that, hey, you know what? You may not want to do this because results may vary. I love that. You see, family, one of the things that I had to learn along the way in facilitating projects was the ability to know your audience. You see, I didn't know my audience. I thought they were just as excited as I was. I thought that they were excited about change and wanting to be flexible about the direction that we were going to have to go because of the scope had to be changed, as well as basically all the triple constraints, because the person that was leading the project prior to when I got on there, that he was having struggles as well because of resource constraints. So there were so many different constraints happening at the same time, and he got pulled away to another project, so they needed someone else to step in. And maybe I shouldn't have, but I did. I volunteered because I said, hey, I want to take on this challenge. It looks very interesting, and that is the key word of today, interesting. So family, what I'm going to share with you again is my 8 points. And one of these 8 points, when you hear me say message, that's the point you definitely want to probably hit rewind and play that back. And I'm not going to make you wait to the end. So I made it so you have to at least stick around for a little bit just to catch which point is going to be. First point is, and there's two messages here that I want to make sure that that arrest your attention, that makes sure that grabs your attention at the same time. First point, resisting flexibility. Listen, I understand that sometimes as project managers or people that are doing project management, especially when they're in a waterfall environment, which that basically means a predictable environment. What that basically means is here's step one. And then after step one, here's step two. I understand that, family. I worked in that environment for years. However, what they don't tell you is the caveat. What does the caveat mean? There means that, again, everything is subject to change. And when things are subject to change, there are proper change measurements in place. But a lot of people forget about that. They always look at a waterfall project as, like I just described, step one and step two. And then all of a sudden, a project all of a sudden hits a roadblock, or it hits a point where it's not getting any momentum, and instead of making a change, we keep doing the same thing over and over and over. You know where I'm about to go with this. Einstein, I think, addressed it well. He said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting to get what? Different results. So resistance to flexibility, family. I don't care what type of project you're leading and or facilitating. I tie those the same thing together, is that we have to ensure that we use proper change management protocols and not be afraid to make that change. If you've seen that it's not happening, I was about to go into some Michael Jackson, make that change. Okay, but you ain't come here for that. But seriously though, family, we have to be able to make these changes and go through the proper change protocol and make it happen. You're the facilitator in this project that you're leading, and you understand, you're seeing, and your stakeholders is giving you consultation on the information. So you have to be prepared and ready to make that adjustment and always be flexible and nimble. Point number two, micromanaging. Oh man, this one right here. This one right here This ruffles my feathers. And let me tell you, I don't even have any feathers to ruffle, but that's just a literal term of me saying I do not like to be micromanaged. For those of you that do, this point is not for you. But for those of us that don't like to be micromanaged, let me explain why we don't like to be micromanaged. If you give us an opportunity to say, hey, I need this to get done. If I am not getting the thing done that you ask for me, then of course I expect, and my expectations is that you will micromanage me. However, if you hand me that thing that you said that you need done and I execute, then that, from there on, we have developed a relationship that when you hand me something and I go out and execute on it, I don't need to be micromanaged. Now I do need to be checked in and follow up on and saying, hey, where we at on this that I gave you, that's perfectly fine. But to stand over my shoulder and I gotta smell your heavy breath. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me get back to the video. I've been, as you can see, I've been through getting micromanaged. But seriously, on a serious note, though, family, micromanaging, and that's just basically excessive control that really stifles the creativity and initiatives of leading, and you're basically demotivating and disengaging your team. I don't know why people, when they're facilitating a project or leading a project, they don't see that. Like they think, oh well, I'm keeping everyone on track. Well, no, you're not. You're really demotivating them. They're like, oh, I got to show up to this person's meeting, or oh, I got to do this. Now, holding someone accountable and following up and making sure they're supposed to deliver. And I know sometimes it seems like that's a thin line. I don't know why I'm in a song mood, but I'll leave that alone. When I say a song mood, like it's a thin line. Okay, anyway, but yeah, no, seriously though. But I know it's a thin line between holding people accountable and consistently following up. I mean, they could be kind of look like you're microman, but again, to me, my definition of micromanaging is that you are not giving me an opportunity to execute on the thing you asked for. And by you checking in and you following up, I don't consider that the same thing, or holding me accountable. I don't consider that as micromanage. I consider micromanage in a standpoint of you not giving me an opportunity to either to have success or failure. And if I'm having failure, then I should be able to circle back with you and say, this is how I attempted to do it. How do you think I should go about doing it? This is my results of what I got from it. So anyway, let me move on, because that's one of them, like I said, those ruffle feather type moments. Point number 3, ignoring feedback. Oh my God. Message. Listen, family, this is a message for you. I don't care in your personal life, in your professional life. I'm not saying listen to everybody, because I'm very, very stubborn when it comes to that. If there's somebody that's doing the thing that you want to do, or has the background and they have the outcomes from what you're doing, you need to pay attention, and I mean pay attention closely. Now, it's the other side of that coin that a lot of people will give their consultation. They will give you their advice, but yeah, it's probably going to be right where it was at when they gave it to me, right with them. What I'm saying, family, is that when we are facilitating a project and we have stakeholders, the majority of the time, these are subject matter experts. So we can't ignore their feedback. Now, we can challenge their feedback, but we can't ignore it. And I've seen this over and over and over again, where we literally, and I've been guilty of it, and that's why I'm calling myself to the table, and I'm present, as you can see, that when we ignore our subject matter expert opinions or actual facts, sometimes it can result in missed opportunities for improvement on the actual project that we're leading. And so we have to be cognizant of this and listen really well to, or as they say, use active listening, and not already formulating a thought or opinion before we even heard everything that they said. Let's actively listen to what they're saying and then come out with our response. Don't be thinking of a response while they're saying what they're saying. Okay, let's move on. Point number 4, failing to celebrate milestones. Hey, let me be honest with you, family. What happens here is that we start neglecting the ones that got us across the line. We start neglecting the people, the resources that really gave up their time and poured into us by ensuring, because if when you are leading a project, the majority of the time you do not, these people do not report to you. You do not, you may have direct reports under the program or portfolio piece, but as having, when you're working in a cross matrix type environment, you won't have these resources reporting directly to you. And because of that, if that's the case, then that is why it's important that we need to acknowledge them, acknowledge them by celebrating. And this, it creates this improves the motivation, and also by recognizing them, especially to their leaders, to the leaders, it shows like, wow, this person really truly cares. And especially if you do care, which I hope that you guys do, because you're working with these people day in and day out. These people are going to want to work with you because they're like, hey, if I work with ED, I know for a fact that I'm going to get recognized, and he's going to ensure that he's putting me first as far as the things that I said I was going to do. And he's holding me accountable, and I'm delivering on the output or the outcome of what it was being asked of me. And he's making sure I'm recognized for that. Listen, people, hey, listen, I'm with Zig Ziglar. Money is up there with next to air. I don't worship it, but it's a nice thing to have. The point I'm trying to make is the more you can recognize a resource, the organization can see how valuable this resource is, and that, they want to make sure they take care of their valuable resources. Wouldn't you? All right, let's move on to point number 5. Lack of clear objectives. Listen, without well-defined goals, a project quickly can lose direction and focus, leading basically to a wasted resources and efforts. And more or less, family, listen. A lot of times I always use this, and I got this from TD Jakes. So shout out to you, TD Jakes. I appreciate that, and I'm borrowing it and I'm modeling it. A lot of times when you get to the root, and I truly mean the root of frustration, it's from a certain expectation, whether we had of ourselves or we had of someone else. And sometimes, I'm not saying the majority, I'm going to use the minority in this one. What tends to happen is that those expectations weren't communicated clear enough. Here's a perfect example. I was in my I'm training for the to be able to conduct DISC assessments. And in conducting DISC assessment, we were in workshops, and we were having a conversation about how this particular team leader gave a certain expectation to their direct report. Well, the direct report went to another resource, and had an expectation that, hey, when I reach out to you or when I contact you, you're supposed to answer the phone. Well, that is not true. And because that's not true, we needed to figure out where that information came from. And once that person got to the bottom of where the information came from, as far as from the direct report, it actually came from the team leader. So you had to have a conversation with the team leader and say, hey, you can't set those type of expectations, because that resource you sent to me was very frustrated because they had an expectation that when they reached out to do some consultation, that I'm supposed to be available, and that is not the case. This is why we have calendars. This is why we have time slots. And so what I'm saying there by sharing that story of someone that shared that with me is the fact that we have to make sure that when we are leading a project, we're facilitating a project, that we set crystal clear objections, so there's not a lack of frustration that comes from, or I should say, frustration comes from expectation. Let's move on to point number 6. Overlooking team member strengths. Listen, you'll be shocked how many that if you start doing your homework, as they would say, and really realizing the unique skills and strength of each of your team members, you'll be shocked how they may be able to help you in other areas, especially if you have resource constraints, and they may be able to pitch in and give you some guidance and some consultation. I've said that before, where I've had to jump in because I'm good with spreadsheets, I'm good with other things. I may not be the greatest as far as if you were to have a subject matter, but I can fill in the gap until we can get that resource in place. And I'm willing to fill in the gap to be able to learn it to get better. But we have to pay attention to team member strength, and if we start doing that, it would really truly help us as we're facilitating a project. Point number 7: bad planning. Listen, you already know the model, you know where I'm about to go with this. If you plan to fail, you fail to plan. And basically, you know, skipping through the planning stages can definitely result in unforeseen challenges and delays in which can affect the project overall success. And you knew I couldn't leave you out on this point number 8 with my favorite, the one that I'm continually to work on every day. I turn on this camera and and get ready to shoot. Poor, but I'm not working on poor improvement though. Poor communication skills. Poor communication, failing to communicate effectively can lead to misunderstandings, misinformation, and missed opportunities. Listen, poor communication, it can hurt your project all the way around. What do you mean all the way around, ED? What I'm saying is that when you do not properly communicate the vision, when you do not properly communicate the expectation, when you properly do not engage your stakeholders and have them make sure that they understand the direction of when we have to pivot or if we're staying course where we're at. There's so many things I can go on, but I don't want to drain this particular video today. I hope you like it. There was just 8. There's so many more out here that I could talk about. I probably can create part 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s of this. But today, I wanted to make sure you got something very valuable, very important to you. Until next time, you know my motto, you know my slogan. I'm out.